right, so we've been doing these panel discussions over the last month, and I'm really surprised nobody said, boy, this is easy for you, right? This is easy, you don't have to write sermons, but the reality is it's a bit not as easy for, right. But I actually think it's more work when you're working with somebody, you're spending time, you're coordinating, you're working the language that we want to speak and making sure that things go well. And I just appreciate the three of you being willing to be here this morning. I know for a couple of you, it's a little further outside your box than you like, and I'm okay with that, but you're not. And so, but they're here because there's something really, really important we need to talk about this morning, and this is something that I believe God has laid on our hearts as a group, and I believe it's something that God is challenging us to take to a whole nother level as a church. And you'll see some more of that coming in the fall in September as we do our kickoffs in the fall. We're going to do a training for all of our Kids Quest leaders on the 7th of September, and then on the 14th of September, we're going to do a huge kickoff, back to school, back to church thing for our kids, and then on September 21st, we're doing a back to church for the entire congregation. So we've got a big kickoff coming up in September as we bring everybody back in, and one of the things that we wanted to talk about very clearly was what does it look like to be a church that really spends time valuing and appreciating family connections, and how important the family is. And how significant family needs to be for us as we, as a church, reach into a community and as communities live. And whether you understand this phraseology or not, it comes from an African proverb, and the proverb is this: it takes a village, right? I mean, you've all heard that before, and we believe that fully and completely, that God puts us into families, that God crafts us into families. But here's what we're seeing, here's what's going on. The family, I think the family is struggling. I think understanding family dynamics are struggling in America right now, and I think we need to bolster those and we need to boost those. Let me just tell you a few things that you need to hear. Right now, 17.6% of all kids are raised in single-parent homes. 17.6 million children are being raised in single-parent homes. Now, that bothers me. That affects all of us. That's more than the city of New York. That's a large number. We've got a whole generation that's being raised in single-parent homes. Of those single-parent homes, 80% of them are being, the single parent is a mom. There's not a stepdad, there's not a dad, there's not an adoptive dad, there's not a dad. And I personally am troubled by that because I love my kids, and I want to, the fact that my kids still call me and when, well, oftentimes it's because they need something, but like a project done, right? Dad, can you come over and fix this, right? But that's, when I hear the word dad, right, it just means something, and it should mean something, and I want that to mean something for every kid, but that means that things are not happening the way God intended. I believe biblically there are some things that we should be doing when it comes to family, because there's some important things you need to hear, that all of us need to connect with, and so you're going to hear some stats this morning. You're going to hear some realities, because statistics and numbers inform our reality, right? It kind of grounds us in what reality is. And here's the reality: 77% of all Christians, 77%. Now think about that. That's a little more than 3/4 of every person who says they're a believer accepts Jesus Christ before the age of 18. Before the age of 18. 77% of all persons who say they're believers did so before they reached the age of 18. So is that you? Did you accept Jesus before the age of 18? Show of hands? Yeah, right. Yeah, same here. Church camp, right? Camp Penn. I remember saying to Jesus at the age of 12 around a campfire on a Friday night, I don't care what you do, but use me, right? And he did. I wasn't sure this was going to be it. Like, I still wanted to chase after the girls at the girls' camp, right? Let's be real. So here's the thing. 18%, another 18% of all people who say they're believers do so between the ages of 18 and 30. And so being a young adult is a pivotal age, being between the ages of 18 and 30. And here's what they tell us. That decision was set up by something that happened prior to the age of 18. Whether it was somebody took me to Sunday school, somebody taught me something, somebody helped me believe something, right? And because of that, I was able to make a decision. And maybe I walked away for a while, but I came back. And so that decision was based on a foundation and a grounding. And that's who we are. That's what church is supposed to do, and that's what family is supposed to do. And as a church, our job is to assist every family in helping every family be a place for raising kids who can make that decision, whether it's they make a decision and become a prodigal and come back, or whether they make that decision and go off to be such a solid believer for the rest of their lives. Whatever that means, we as a church have to bring, I think, strength and biblical presence into the backbone of our communities, which is family. Family is so important. Statistics tell us that societies where the family erodes, the society erodes. So here's what has happened. People have looked back over different societies, all the way back to the Tigris and Euphrates, all the way back to the early societies. And when the value and importance of family disintegrated, so did that society, so did that community. They became susceptible to invasion from outside because they were no longer strong on the inside. Rome is a classic example. When Rome started putting more energy and more effort into the individual and into the me instead of to the family, Rome set itself up for invasion from outside and crumbled. The Roman Empire, which was one of the largest in the world, crumbled right in front of their very eyes, and they couldn't believe it. But it's because they had no longer given themselves a sense of family strength and value. Well, on the other hand, when Ezra and Nehemiah are going back to Jerusalem and rebuilding the city of Jerusalem, which had been devastated and totally trashed, you know what they did? They put families in charge of sections within the walls of Jerusalem and said, your family builds this wall, your family builds this part of the wall, and your family builds this part of the wall. And so they've strengthened the family, and in so doing, strengthened the city. You see what goes on there? So if we're going to be a strong place, it's time for us to strengthen the city. This has been true all over the world. This has been true even here in our part of the world, and it's happening right in front of us. And so I see some places right now in America that we need to prioritize some family values. The first is I'm going to present two areas. So the first one we're not going to talk much more about today, but the first area that I think America needs to start setting some family priorities is with our senior citizens. Now, that's not because I are one or becoming one very soon, right? That's not it. It's because my parents are. My dad's 90, my dad's 91, my mom's 90. We just lost my father-in-law, he was 89. But I go into senior living places and I'm looking around, and here's what I understand very quickly when I go into places. We're not caring for people the way we should. In what has been coined the twilight of their lives, right? Or what we love to say is the golden years, right? And ask any senior if it's really golden or not. Right, they'll tell you, no, it's a little rusty. It's a little tarnished. Yeah, right. It's difficult and it's challenging. And I think we could do a better job of caring for our seniors than what we're doing right now. And here's what I also know. We are not at a place where we're ready for the next generation. The baby boomer generation is starting to flood senior citizen centers. And that's not going to get better. That's going to continue for the next 10 to 15 years. And we're not ready. We're not ready. We're not ready as a government. We're not ready as a people. We're not ready as communities to care for each other. I've already told my kids I'm coming to live with one of you. They already know that. One of them, they're all like, they're all like, which one's getting dad and mom, right? Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Anyway. So, I think we could do a much better job in the senior time of life. And we can talk about that someday, and I'd love to sit down and have a whole sermon on how we better be taking care of our senior generation. But the other area I think we're not doing a great job of is we're not taking care of our kids. We're not looking after the future generation. And because of that, we're living in fear, and we're not doing the things we ought to be doing with kids in raising them up and training them up in the way they should go. Listen to, I have two passages I want you to hear from Scripture. The first one comes from Psalm number 127. Here's what it says. Children are a gift from the Lord. What are they? What was the word? A gift. They're a gift. Look at somebody and say a gift. They're a gift. Look at somebody. Yeah, right. Like some of you are like, this was not a gift, right? Or I know there are particular days when it doesn't feel like a gift. I get that. I totally get that. But it's a gift. The word gift. Here's the gift. The word. The idea behind the word gift is it's a present. It was something handed into us to care for and to steward. We're supposed to be looking after them and caring for them and raising them up. God says, I'm going to hand this to you as a gift. What do we do with gifts? I have gifts in my office. People gave me some things, and I put them in my office, and you know what I do with them? I give them pride of place. I set them on a ledge, or I set them on a place, and I keep them dusted off, and I look at them once in a while because they were gifts. And they remind me of the person, and they remind me of my importance, and remind me of my significance, and remind me of that activity and that event that took place. And because of that, my kids remind me that God has challenged me to be a parent. And now a grandparent. And that's a gift. And we need to embrace it. We need to embrace it. And what I'm afraid of is we're not embracing it the way we ought to. Not as clearly as we should. And I'm just going to call it out. Some of it is because of we just want to live our own lives. I want to be, we're the I want to be me generation, right? But God says, I'm going to give you a gift. Here's the gift. It's a child. So children are a gift from the Lord, and they are a reward from Him. Now, there's a whole nother thought and a whole nother sermon right there. What did I do to deserve this, right? Right, they're a reward from Him. Children born to a young man are like arrows in a warrior's hands. How joyful is the man whose quiver is full of them. He will not be put to shame when he confronts his accusers at the city gates. Now, I want to continue on. There's another passage in Proverbs. Some of you have heard this passage before. I want to make sure you hear it again today. If you've never heard it before, I need you to hear this today. Direct your children. It's Proverbs 22, verse 6. Direct your children onto the right path, and when they're older, they will not leave it. Notice it doesn't say they will never leave it. It says when they are older, they'll come back to it. They will never leave it. They'll stay on that path. It doesn't mean they can't be a prodigal. The prodigal son is real, right? Anybody been a prodigal or know one? Yeah, right. My Marine Corps days were prodigal. Me and the prodigal son story it's real, right? I was running from God. I was running from everything that I knew. I wanted to run far away, and God wouldn't let me. Thank you, Jesus, right? And so if you train up a child, direct up a child into the way they should go, when they're older, they won't part from it. Now, this is super important because the Bible not only says it, but we see it in reality. We've seen it all the way back into the Old Testament, and we see it all the way into our current modern culture and living. So why is this so important? What is it about our kids? Why should we be investing? I know, I want to invest in me. I've got stuff I want to do, right? I got stuff I want to, but I need to be instead thinking, how do I first invest in children? And not just my children. I heard somebody the other day complain that they had to pay a school tax. I said, be glad you pay a school tax, because you're getting the opportunity to educate the next generation. And I need the next generation to be educated, because when somebody 16 years old is standing at the cash register and they don't know how to give me the right change. With me? Right? It means I have failed. I have failed my community because my community doesn't know and doesn't value some things that are really, really important. And I've allowed that to happen. So I'm glad that I get a chance to pay a school tax. Now, I'm also glad that we as a church are incredibly involved in the life of the school right down the street from us, Northside Elementary School. I'm really glad for that. As a matter of fact, I challenge every pastor I meet, connect your congregation to a local elementary school or a middle school or high school. Do something like that. Connect yourself to a school. Not because it's weird, not because it's creepy, because it's important. And kids, here's what one of the things we're going to do. I'm in the process of setting up the date with the principal at Northside. We're going to do a prayer meeting over in the parking lot at Northside right before school starts. So we don't know which day, and I don't know what hour of the day we're going to do it. But as soon as I do, as soon as he grants us that date and time, you're going to know about it so that we can gather over in the parking lot and just pray over the school. Pray over the teachers, pray over the kids, pray over the buses and the bus drivers. And because I just believe that when God's people gather together in the community and pray for our kids and for our schools, that God shows up. Amen? And so when you hear that date, and if that date and time you're going to be available, I don't want you to sleep in, I don't want you to go for coffee, I want you to come there and be praying for our kids, all right? So this is really important, and I've asked... boy, I didn't even take care of the microphone thing. I just did all of that. Gosh, here we go. You get the first one. I know, right. So I'm going to hand this over. Deb Brocious has been a part of our kids ministry for a while. I didn't tally up the years. Do you know? Let's not
tally up the years.
So Deb has been a part. Deb actually was significant in changing and redirecting our kids ministry years ago as we adopted curriculum and went a particular direction. She's been to multiple conferences and she has led the charge. And when we wanted to relaunch our kids ministry back in March, Deb came back in and was a champion for us, and I want to thank you for that. But there's some things you want to make sure people hear that are so valuable and on your heart. So would you share those with us?
Of course.
Good,
Thank
thanks.
you so much for letting me be here and share this ministry that I am very passionate about. And as Dave has said, way too many years.
Okay.
We're not counting. Families and children are an important part of our faith community. We as believers need to make that a priority in our life, and we need to minister to the families and children. At Crosspoint, we have purchased and have been using for a number of years, I'm not even sure how many, the curriculum called Orange. A brief summary of Orange is, Orange takes the light of the church, which is the color yellow, and it combines with the heart of the home, which is referred to and represented by the color red. So when we have the color yellow plus the color red, we end up with the color orange. So that is how Orange came to be their name. So the job of us, our church, is to partner with each family and to help the families be intentional and authentic with their faith as they go through the process of raising their children. So Orange's mission is basically to influence those who influence the faith and future of the next generation. Now, part of this Orange curriculum is that we need to meet children where they are developmentally. And with that comes along the aspect of what they call phases. And I believe we have a slide that we can show. Yep. So when we know a child and we know what phase that child is currently in, it allows us, the phase definition is a time frame in a kid's life when you can have the leverage and opportunity to influence the future. And that's what Dave was talking about. That's the missing component. We need to be able to do that for our families, for our own children, for our grandchildren, and for those families in our communities. When we look at phases, that is basically, we want to look at each child individually. We want to know where that child is. We want to know what's happening in that child's life at that point in time. We also want to know what their growth and developmental insights are. We also want to use rhythms and responses that can show our authentic faith. We don't want it to be anything but authentic, because children watch, they listen, they learn by all these observations that they make. And if we're not authentic in our own faith, the children are not going to be authentic in their faith. We also want to create weekly times for parents. Part of the phases in the curriculum reinforces that there are certain times during the day that we can just take a brief minute and be intentional about our faith. Usually it's like in the morning, could be mealtime. If you have a little one, it could be when you're cuddling that child. If you have an older child, a teenager, it can be when you're driving them here, there, and everywhere. And of course, at bedtime. These are opportunities to be intentional, and that is the whole idea behind the phases. We want to take this opportunity at the given chances to impact the child's life. And we as a community need to do that by partnering with the families. Now, a great visual that the curriculum uses is what we call the marbles. So if you look on the altar, we have jars of marbles. What the curriculum does is we use these marbles to represent the time in the life of a child. So of course, my large jar in the middle would be when a child's born. You have 936 weeks. That's how many Lindsay has.
Yeah.
With the
Right.
little Molly.
Right, with little Molly.
With little Molly.
Yeah.
To influence
Yeah.
and make a difference in that child's life.
Yeah.
So this visual just goes along with how important each week is. So as each week passes, you remove a marble. So for example, maybe a fourth grader might have 468 weeks left to influence. Sixth grader, 364 weeks. Ninth grader, 208 weeks. And then maybe if your child's in 11th grade, you only have 104 weeks till that child turns 18 and graduates and moves on. And I'm here to tell you, after raising 3 children, they do go and leave you. So you have this visual to show what a difference you can make in the life of a child. If everyone takes this into account and we all partner together, we can certainly make a difference in the lives of the families. One thing we talked about this past week at Bible school, and I think each and every one of us can do a better job of that, is our theme for the week was live and love like Jesus. And this provides us an opportunity to live and love like Jesus.
Yeah, right. We brought the jars out this week during Vacation Bible School. One evening, we brought them out and set them up and started putting the plaques up. And you can walk up and take a look at those. The jars represent different stages and ages in life. And this one lady, like, almost lost it on us. She's like, don't do that to me.
Yes.
Like, don't tell me I only have this much time left. And we're like, no, you need to know you only have this much time left. Like, your kid is going to be turning 18 at some point, and they're going to leave. And some of you are like, yeah, but they come back. Anybody have a boomeranger? Yeah, right. Man. It happens, right? But the reality is our influence changes at 18, right? Up till the age of 18, I told my kids what to do, and they had to do it. You know, there were penalties. Now, once my kids went past 18, it's not so much that I tell them what to do, I show them what to do, because now they're adults, right? And so I'm leading by example. And I have to live my life in such a way that they look at me. And all 3 of my kids came back to me at one point in life and said, thank you. I don't know if you've ever gotten that. I don't know if you've ever had a kid come back and thank you for what you did in their lives. But while it was happening, it was rough because they didn't appreciate it then, right? Like Sunday morning after being out, we did band. And at Central Dauphin High School, we did band, and I was a band parent. And so there were Saturday nights that we were in some town, some far away, and we got back on the buses, and we had to unpack all the gear, and it was 2 in the morning, and I was like, okay, the alarms go off at 8 o'clock. It's because church is in the morning. You're like, Dad. I'm like, no, 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 no. I heard the age-old adage that if you can fly with the owls at night, you can soar with the eagles in the morning. And so I always told them that, right? You were out with the owls last night. We're flying with the eagles in the morning, right? Because that's what we're going to do, and that's what we do in my house. And now I'm blessed. All 3 of my kids know Jesus. All 3 of my kids are serving the Lord. Because of this reality, because I recognized and realized, my wife and I recognized and realized that this is so valuable and so important, and we wanted them to have that. Here's why. This is incredibly selfish, although it's backed by some really strong biblical understanding. But I'm just going to be honest with you. It's really selfish. I didn't have my kids so I could just enjoy them on this side of heaven. I wanted them to have eternity in their heart, so that when I get there, I know they're going to be there too. After me, obviously, is what the plan is, right? But I want my kids to be in heaven with me. I want my daughter and son-in-laws to be with me, and my grandkids to be with me, and that's so valuable. And so I didn't raise them just to have them on this side of heaven. I want them on the other side of heaven with me too. So that's important, and that's one of the reasons we do what we do here. And Linda, one of the things that we've talked about here is doing it on purpose. But you've experienced this.
I have.
Yeah, no, it sounds loud, but it's not. You're right, yeah. Yeah, let them adjust it. You just talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking of so many stories while you were talking, and I'll go back to, we have twin boys, and many of you know Andrew, who's sitting over there. So our family is a little unique in that Andrew has some physical challenges, and in many respects, it's made being at church and introducing them to faith early in their lives more important, because sometimes it's hard for us as a family to understand why Andrew has challenges. And so it's been helpful for us to, go through that process. And I remember, I think the boys were 5. And many of you know Natalie Foxwell. She's one of my best friends, and she's why she and Dan are why we're at this church. And Dan passed away, and it was really tough for our family. And I think if we didn't have the church, and we didn't have our faith, and if Tommy and Andrew didn't understand that there's more than just here, it would have been very difficult. And I come from a family who, my mom, like you said, your mom is 91. My mom is 91. She'll be 91 in October. Yeah. She still teaches VBS. She just finished VBS in my home church back in Western Pennsylvania. I grew up in VBS. We called it Bible school. I grew up in Sunday school. And so it was important for me to have our kids do the same. Andrew and Tommy went through every Vacation Bible School here, and now they're 19. Thank you for pointing out the marbles. But Andrew was really emphatic, and Andrew, we went on a mission trip last year, right, honey? And we have done, and the boys have been in youth group, and Andrew said to me this summer, he said, I know I can't go to VBS, but could I go back and help? So Andrew was here this past week to help out, and he did a great job. And so it does matter. I mean, we look at things and you think it's just a coloring sheet, or it's just a Bible verse, or it's just a craft, or it's not. It's a seed. It's a seed that we're planting for young people to, maybe they don't get it right there, but Andrew can come up with a Bible verse. Tommy can come up with a Bible verse that reflects, maybe not like you can, but that can point to something we're going through or something that they're going through. So if you think that what you do as a church or as an individual doesn't have an impact on a child, and not your child, because sometimes we have more impact on others, right, than our own kids.
Right.
It absolutely does, without question.
You just had some pretty significant surgery.
I
You said
did.
A month ago, you wouldn't have been able to sit in this chair.
That's true. That's true.
But you also, just knowing you were able to, as a family, to be able to say to each other, "It's going to be okay." I mean, it was scary. It was significant surgery. You were out for hours.
I was, yeah.
Yeah, and had your hip rebuilt, basically.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And I did. I said I would never have gotten up on this chair a month ago, but here I am, and I'm
Yeah.
fine.
But you went into that with a sense of peace that both of your boys were able to witness from you.
I
And
hope so.
I watched that
I
as
hope so.
well when you talked about it.
I hope so. And Andrew, too, has had many surgeries.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And we, I think, approach all of those with that same idea that, God is here and he's going to take care of you and take care of us. And you can't do that with kids who don't understand.
Right.
You can't tell a child that it's going to be okay, God is with you, if they don't know who God is.
Right.
And so I think for our family, that has been a really important part of our development.
Amen. All right, so earlier this year, well, at the end of last year, I started having a conversation with Aaron in our office, and we started talking about what it looked like to do kids ministry. And you were not hired into this position. I think you were here because of this, but I think God was playing. I don't know if God plays tricks or has a sense of humor, but I think.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because you were hired as an office person. Originally by the Early Learning Center, right? And so in our office, you started integrating into our office life, and we got a chance to know you and got to know you more and more, and got to know your background, that you had been doing presentations and teaching with children, especially in the area of wildlife,
Yeah.
which is your background, right? Yeah, you have a degree in...
Wildlife management and conservation.
Right, and so you used to bring animals out and teach children the importance of
Yep.
Wildlife and conservation, and you did that first person in person in places that are kind of unique. Yeah, and so we started hearing that story, and I realized, I'm in a prayer time, literally with the Lord, like, God, how are we gonna launch our kids ministry to the next level? What are we gonna do? And God just kept putting Erin in front of my eyes and saying, you already have the person. You already have the person. And I would go to her and she was like, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. And finally, I think God spoke to your heart and convinced you that we did have the right person and that you could do this. And you've been amazing since stepping into this role. And I want to thank you for stepping into it so boldly, even though there have been times when you're like, you just had to figure it out as you go. And I've watched you do that, and thank God you have Deb beside you,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
right, and but you're doing this for a reason. You're a mom, and so this matters to you.
Yes.
Right.
Mom of three, son who's going to be 16 in November, daughter who's going to be 14 on Thursday.
Yeah.
Can't believe it. So that would mean that she's going to be 9th grade this year, and
Yeah.
son who's going to be 10th grade at DC Tech. And then Emmy, who I think everybody knows Emmy.
Yeah.
She's 10, and she'll be at 5th grade at West Hanover. And I'm supposed to say what children's ministry has meant to my family, and it's been a blessing. It has really just shown God's love to the kids, and it has let them be able to know the Bible stories in ways that I couldn't even really explain. I mean, you've learned them when you were kids, but it's not like you can really recite them. You can't recite the Bible verses. I never was really good with reciting the Bible verses. But with the curriculum Orange, the Bible stories, the way that they show them, it's just incredible. The way that they kind of just make them fun, and then also the way that they have the activities with the Bible verses and the Bible stories. And then the people that they have met, from the volunteers to the kids that they have met, they're not friends, it's family, and they're all just helping them grow in values and in love. And all I can say is we're just very blessed, very blessed.
Amen.
I also need to say that having Andrew for VBS was great. The kids loved him. So it was really nice. I know Emmy took a shine to him. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you're aware, we are plowing forward. We've got some great ideas for the fall. Now that Vacation Bible School has ended, we're going to get together and start talking about our fall kickoff. We've got some great ideas. If you're not a part of our kids ministry yet, you can be, and you probably want to be, and you really should be. And so, we want you to be a part of this. We've got some great kickoff stuff happening in September when we bring everybody back. Central Dauphin goes back to school right after Labor Day, which is kind of weird. But so we're gearing all of our kickoff stuff around our local school district, and that's just the way we operate. We understand flow and understand all of that kind of stuff. But let me just say this in a bigger picture. Let me just back out just a little bit from Kids Ministry and Kids Quest. We have a preschool that is phenomenal. It's award-winning every year in Greater Harrisburg area. We have a great team of leaders who are leading our preschool, and I think right now we're in the process of signing kids up for the fall schedule and everything. And I think we have, Paula, how many classes do we have full already? Several? We're up 50% from just this past year already. So, yeah, so it's incredible what's going on in our preschool, and I want to thank those leaders. Our Early Learning Center right now, we have 98 kids in the building every day. It's really amazing. They take over, by the way. But I get a chance to impact with families. I get a chance to impact with kids, and I just want to tell you, the impact lingers into their adult life. I've done weddings for kids who had no church connection except through our Early Learning Center or our preschool, and I was the only pastor they had ever met. I'm the only pastor they ever knew. Having been here 28 years, I've been around for a while. And so they called me up and said, I would like to get married, and you're the only pastor I know. Would you do the wedding? So it lasts and it lingers, and the impact you have on a child can last into their adult life. And so that's really important. Secondly, I want to just talk quickly. Friday, we posted a position for an associate pastor, and that position will be, part of that job description will be in charge of middle school, high school, and we're looking at full-time. We're actively looking. We have a plan B if we don't find somebody, but we're hoping and trusting that God's going to bring the right person to us right now so that we can relaunch our middle school and high school ministries in the fall as well. And so that's all happening all at the same time. We're juggling all of this at the same time. So if you know somebody who needs a full-time job and has a calling in the area of middle school and high schoolers, I know that's really specific, but talk to me. So that's where we're headed, and that's good stuff for us in the fall. Some people say that the church the summer is not a busy time, but it's been incredibly busy for us this summer to get us prepared for the fall. And so our plan is to relaunch in the fall in really, really big ways. And so this was a part of it. And I want to thank the three of you for being up here, getting out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I'm going to ask that you guys go ahead and exit off, and I'm going to wrap us up. And do you want to come on back up? We're getting ready for our closing song. Let's do that. And as we do, let me just ask, would you stand with me? Would you just stand to your feet with me, please? And I just ask you to be in an attitude of prayer. And let's just, because there are kids who are a part of your life. There are kids that you have impact over. There's a community that we have impact over. We should never be saying, the church and its believers and the followers of Jesus should never be saying things like, get off my lawn, right? That shouldn't be who we are. As a matter of fact, we should say, come onto my lawn. Come, and this is a safe place and a good place. And I want you to see the love of Jesus as we love each other and as we love in our communities. And so, Lord God, we just pray right now. We pray for our lives and the opportunities that are in front of us. We ask, oh Lord, that you would continue to put us into places where we can influence a next generation for you and for your kingdom. Help us to do that, Lord. Help us to be your believers, living it out every single day in the world that we live in, Lord. And we pray that we might have such a positive influence on children, that their lives are affected forever, for an eternity. We ask this, Lord, in the powerful name of your Son, Jesus Christ.